Okay, good to go.
So Aiki Extensions was founded a little more than 20 years ago by Don Levine, who was a dean at the University of Chicago, a prominent scholar, Ethiopian linguist and cultural scholar. He was a sociologist by training, and he was a 4th degree black belt. And he taught a class on Aikido and sociology at University of Chicago 25 years ago. That got profiled in the New York Times magazine. And his basic premise was that Aikido is great in a dojo, but the tactical wisdom and the strategic insights of Aikido, what you sort of encapsulate when you just say Aiki, really have a lot more application than simply the techniques we learn and practice. And whether that's an Aikido attitude towards conflict in personal relationships, an Aikido attitude towards conflict in political confrontation, Aikido attitude towards therapy with combat veterans or people who've experienced other kinds of trauma, Aikido as sort of a guide towards teaching techniques, counseling techniques, music, psychotherapy, massage and body work. There were just any number of business consulting and leadership, embodied leadership in particular. And so he and several others created an organization to try and gather together as a membership the people who also thought, like he did, that Aiki had more to offer the world than just, exercise, even if it's beautiful exercise. And among the first things, they started having conferences, some in the United States, some in Europe. They organized seminars. Most notably in 2005, they gathered almost something like 100 students in Cyprus, in Nicosia, in the demilitarized zone between Greek and Turkish territories, and hosted an Aikido seminar. Jamie Zimron, who's on this call, was one of the instructors there. Paul Linden, who's on this call, was one of the instructors there. And Jamie, you can name all the others. I think I can rattle off all the names, but I might forget somebody. Richard Hecker was there. Atif Amin from Baghdad was there. Kurt Bartolet from Switzerland was there. And Tesfai Tekelu, who's gone on to become a sensei, was there as a student. And it was, by all accounts, I didn't have the privilege to know about it yet, life-changing for all the participants, and an extraordinary expression that really genuinely seemed to live up to O-sensei's request that we use Aikido to not as a technique to defeat enemies, but to make all of humankind one family, and reconcile the world. And Aiki Extensions has, been trying to do that since its founding. We've hosted other seminars and conferences. On the 10th anniversary of the 2005 event, the Training Across Borders event in Cyprus, we held one in Loutraki, Greece, also with about 100 participants and an international menu of instructors. And personally, it's one of the most important things I've ever done. At least it felt that way at the time, and it continues to feel that way. If we decide to spend, 8 to 11 minutes of this call, I do have a video that's available for sharing. If we don't want to spend the time on the call, I can post a Google Drive link where you could watch it for yourself. So mostly we are an organization that tries to encourage people who are doing, Aiki extended things out in the world. And we have a seed grant program to help them get, started. We are, trying to have trying to cast as many stones into the pond, and each of us has the capacity to be set, a pebble in a pond, in the typical phrase, to, ripple outwards and have as much impact as possible. We're just a little nonprofit, and we try to get stuff done. What have I not covered, Quentin, Jamie?
Well, not much what you've not covered, but let's give a quick summary. So basically, Aiki Extended is about taking Aikido off the mat in whatever guise you want to take it. We don't believe in having borders, so all the different lineages, it really doesn't matter to us. We're just interested in the message of Aikido and its wider application. It's something bigger than just technique on a mat. So very often we're supporting projects that help people who are not as well off as ourselves. And we're looking to provide a networking opportunity for those people who want to meet others who do Aikido in business, or Aikido with children, or Aikido in psychotherapy or counseling or whatever it is. So we can hook people together. And the bottom line is we're here to show you some of the work we've done and find out whether you think that's valuable. But we're also here to see whether you want to participate in this and add some of your own energy, even if that's just signing up as a member, to support the work we do. Because the more money we've got, the more projects we can support in a more meaningful way. So I'm just going to open up the mics and just ask if there's any feedback at this stage from people. So hang on just a tick. Oh.
Could I say a little something, Quentin?
Sure. While I'm doing that, you go for it.
Yeah, cool. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for being here. It's great to see the interest in not just Aiki Extensions as an organization. It's not really an advertisement, although of course we want people to get involved. But it's really about Aikido in the world and taking Aikido. Aikido, in my view, has sort of two really big areas. And one is Aikido in the dojo and, doing all of our techniques. And we all love that. We're chomping at the bit, we kind of can't do it so closely right now. So there's Aikido in the dojo, but there's also Aikido in the world, two giant areas. And O-sensei, at least in my view, and I think, he said so himself, saw Aikido as medicine for a sick world, to reconcile the world, bring all human beings together, to create peace. I just wrote an article in Aikido Journal. If anybody saw that, I kind of talked about that and framed it really, which is the way I frame what we do in extending Aikido, applying Aikido in the world, taking Aikido into different, aspects of our professional work and our personal lives beyond the dojo. But that really came from O-sensei. He saw that Aikido had a mission, and the mission was to help bring about more peace in the world. And a paradigm shift, we could say, a transformative practice to help the world move into more harmonious ways of being, and each one of us to have just more peaceful, more healthy, more collaborative, more life-giving relationships. And so, from that kind of mission of O-sensei, Don Levine sensei, professor of sociology, he at the University of Chicago, and a world-renowned Ethiopian scholar, which was really our direct connection to helping to create the Aikido in Ethiopia project. And Don brought Tesfaye Tekelu to our first Training Across Borders conference. That was really cool. Rob mentioned it, in the UN buffer zone between Greek and Turkish Cyprus. And, from that, it's true, we're a small nonprofit as an organization since 1998. But being small and just kind of getting in donations to keep going and to do things, we've done amazing things in terms of Training Across Borders and, and things that have grown from there. Aikido in Palestine, Aikido in Ethiopia. People associated with Aiki Extensions have been doing Aikido in the schools and Aikido in business. We've, mentioned those different fields, and we can talk more about them. But it's pretty amazing, so we're sort of like the little engine that could. and we have done. And we want to be more than a little engine. We want to be a much bigger engine, not just Aiki Extensions, but this whole notion and activity of Aikido in the world, particularly given COVID, the COVID crisis, and this opportunity and necessity really of making a healthier world and having this opportunity to make changes in the world. So the discussion around how can Aikido contribute to that, Aiki principles, Aiki practices, things that each one of us does in our own personal professional lives outside of the dojo. And so that's really, I think, what we're here to talk about and we're looking at, and it's just wonderful to see everybody here. So thank you for being here and, being part of that whole effort. If you want to be a member of Aiki Extensions, fabulous. And we'll tell you more of, things that are going on, in that realm, but it's really the bigger realm and, of applying Aikido to make a healthier world.
Thank you, Jamie. I've just put the website in the chat, so if anybody wants to sort of reference point and a place to join up, then that'll be where you go. As I say, I've opened up the microphones. Some people are still muted, but can I just ask for some initial feedback? Is there a place for Aiki Extensions in the world? If so, what do you think are its major benefits?
Thank you.
Okay, who was that? Who was that?
I said something, but I thought I heard someone else say something.
No, you go for it.
Okay, cool. So first of all, Hajime Mashite, pleasure, honor to be in your presence, so many senseis in the room. And so I tip my hat for all the things you do, but more so for what you stand for. And I do believe currently the world needs this more than ever before, but the awareness of it is so little in comparison to the need. So I tip my hat to all you stand for. And I, at the beginning of the call, would like to commit, I would like to sponsor 5 memberships for a year. So that 5 others can partake in your wisdom for a year. So I'd like to do that, and someone let me know, maybe Sensei, Jamie, how to do that. And so
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
I support. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's great.
I feel I should know your surname because I sort of recognize you, but can you just offer that for the room?
Yeah, Cowden is my surname, and I have trained in Aikido, and I've been to Lake Tahoe. Some of you might remember me from there. I was with Wolfgang Sensei from Karo in Berlin, and deeply moved. I didn't start Aikido till I was 50, but I think in prior lives I must have had more, and went 17 times to Japan, trained in Japan, and I am, if I wouldn't have broken my back, I would still be on the mat, but I'm not. But I've taken it further to other places, so I'm deeply grateful and thankful for what Aikido has given me. Therefore, it is my responsibility to give back.
I think the beauty of what you've just said is that the fact that you can't practice off the mat doesn't mean to say you've not been practicing it in your life since. And I think that's what O-Sensei wanted. So more power to your elbow. And I also want to support the idea that there has never been a better time to prove that Aikido can help you through difficult times. We can't get on the mat. So, looking at what's happening in the last few months online has been amazing. I have to say, when it happened, I saw it as a period, as opportunity, not as something to worry about. And that's proved to be true. There'll be more connecting, more breaking down of barriers, more creativity, more brilliant new ideas that will last for the future, some of which we'll go into today, than would ever have happened without COVID. So for that, at least, I'm grateful. Yeah. Anyone else got any thoughts or comments?
I've got a couple of good Don Levine stories, if you want. One, I was coming back from the airport in a taxi. The driver was Ethiopian, and he asked, where was I going? Where did I come from? What was I doing? So I told him a little bit about Aiki Extensions. And he said, oh, the Jewish guy from Chicago. It was just an Ethiopian taxi driver. Everybody in Ethiopia, I gather, knows Don Levine. The other is at one point, he told me that he started Aikido pretty late, and the people around him all said, "You'll get hurt. You shouldn't do anything like that. You're too old." And then he grinned and said, "Well, they're all dead now, and I'm still practicing."
Paul, I want to just pick up on that to share a story of Don and Tesfaye at the first Training Across Borders conference. And by the way, we discovered that Don was like, I mean, talk about world-renowned Aiki Ethiopian scholar. He was the first sort of white man, Jewish man on top of it, to be a professor at the university in Addis Ababa. And he apparently knew Amharic and things about Ethiopian culture and philosophy and history that even Ethiopians didn't know. At his funeral in Chicago, 10,000 trees were planted within days or committed from the Ethiopian community. And this is when I learned so much more about his influence in Ethiopia. But when we were in Cyprus, one of the things that we did in addition to having a lot of Aikido training with people who were from Palestine, Israel, Jordan, Iraq, Greeks, Turkey, Serbia, Bosnia, people in literal conflict zones who would never get together except for Aiki Extensions and Training Across Borders, these kinds of opportunities, just so you kind of get the mindset. This was in 2005. But so in addition to the training, we had meals together. We were doing line dancing. If you know anything about Middle East dancing, Israeli folk dancing or Greek folk dancing or Arabic folk dancing, and is it Palestinian hummus? Is it Israeli hummus? Is it Greek food? So I mean, it's just also similar. So just those kind of cousin similarities really came through in our meals and then in activities that we did. And we had breakout sessions. Paul led an amazing one. And, we tried to do some things about, again, Aiki applications and that people were doing in the world in psychology and leadership. Richard Sensei did a session on that. We heard from Jose Bueno Sensei about Aikido in the favelas of Brazil and how Aikido is helping, kids there. So, and then we did a talent show. And oh my God, it was amazing. Some things were so deep, some things were so hilarious. And the skits, I'll never forget the Iraqis doing a skit about Saddam Hussein in 2005 was pretty incredible. And then Tesfaye led the whole entire group all around the room, winding like this in a tribal dance from Ethiopia. And at one point, Don dressed up as a sort of like an Ethiopian tribal chief. I remember him, and he had a staff, and he spoke in Amharic, and it was just totally incredible. So we tried to bring in the sort of cross-cultural connections. I should mention, at the end of all of that one night, somebody put on like the Beatles and Pretty Woman and, that kind of music, and everybody just threw their arms around each other and were dancing together. So, the whole idea is to build bridges, which is the citizens diplomacy model, that once we meet each other, we know each other as human beings. When we become friendly and we share, we notice our similarities much more than our differences. And to me, Aikido is kind of it goes beyond even sports for peace, because, we're not like two national teams or competitive teams, we're, playing together, but what we are is talking about peace, studying blending, harmony, love, energy, universal life energy, we're the same. So, it gives us a way to directly address all of these issues, but do it through what we love, which is Aikido, and it's sport, and it's fun, and it's eating together, and all that kind of stuff that we do at seminars. So just to kind of give you an idea of what, we can say Training Across Borders or show a film, but that's really what the experiences have been like. And so when Rob says it was maybe like the most important or one of the most important experiences in his life and joyful and meaningful, that's the kind of thing that happens. And now I am in an advertisement. You get involved in, amazing things. You start doing amazing things and being in amazing places and being with people and your heart's open and you feel like you're really doing something with your Aikido in your life. So not that you're not, but you know what I'm saying. So anyways, just wanted to share that.
So I'll open it up to the room for any comments or questions that people want to give. But then what we're going to do is we're going to run through some of the things that Aiki Extensions has done or are doing or will be doing in the future. And then we're open for questions, comments, whatever. Right. So, Piers.
Yeah, I want to be slightly devil's advocate and slightly maybe a little bit sort of controversial. Interestingly, my club membership renewed this week, so it's quite topical. And whenever we talk about Aiki extensions, to be honest, all of the things that have been said this evening have been said again tonight. And I'm more interested in what's happening now, not so much what's happened historically. What's happening today?
Okay.
Because I feel, to a certain extent, that energy that Jamie has, she's so animated about the things that happened in 2005, and I was at Lutraki, and that was a wonderful event. I really, really enjoyed it. But I'm wondering if that energy is still there today.
Yeah, it is. I was going to work from the past forward, but I will now work from the present backwards, because I think it's relevant to talk about things we have done as well as things that we are doing. Just for the UK, guys, just so you know, a non-profit is effectively a charity. Yeah, but in the States, charities are called non-profits, just so you know. Okay, so the thing that we're currently very excited about is a new development called Aikido University. Jamie's been more involved with this, more involved than me with this, so I will get her to sort of headline it. But effectively, there's a group of people in the States, not that it's open to anybody who wants to join, but it is based in the States, are opening up an online platform for people to teach, to offer Aikido courses in whatever realm they want it to be. And effectively, Jamie's engineered it so that Aiki Extensions will be at the forefront of, if you like, Aikido in the world. So how do you take the message of Aikido and put it out there in the world? And a number of us are at the moment trying to put together some courses to put on board that platform, to be selling that idea that you can take Aikido off the mat. And indeed, perhaps that's the most important thing we should be doing. So there's a summary, Jamie. I've learned that you're ready to tell more.
Yeah, well, this is really quite exciting. Some of you are members of the Aikido Instructors Group. Anybody? Raise your hand if you're part of Aikido Instructors Group or have heard of it. It was only started, I think, around February, a little bit pre-COVID, by a man named Skip Chapman, who was Uchi Deshi to Yamada Sensei. There are some people who have since been kind of leaving the USAF and being more independent. He's one of them, and there's some others. They have a small committee. So they started the Aikido Instructors Group, and practically overnight, in a matter of weeks or months, there's already, I think, around 2,500 or 3,000 members. And so, and their core groups, Skip's group, Mallory Graham, if you might know her, have been working for quite a while developing something called Aikido University, which is an online university. It's so interesting always to think about the things we do online if they were in the physical world. So like, here's a university, here's a building, right? And so many things to talk about, teach about, share about, learn about around Aikido, itself. Aikido practice, dojo practice. And so, I started some conversations with them and brought it to our board. And so our board has been working with their core group, which is really cool. And what we're doing is creating now within the Aikido University, think of the next big building, the huge, medical center or engineering building or something, which will be the Aikido in the World department. And within the Aikido in the World department, I think I'll let Susan talk about, if you don't mind, Susan, talking about some of the sub-departments and things like that. But what we're looking to do is to have a place for people to teach, to study, and especially to network, which has been a big function of Aiki Extensions all along. How do we find each other? If you're doing work in business and so am I, and you were in Europe and I never heard about you, or you were in the Middle East, who knows where you are? Or in psychology or law or whatever. Susan will talk about that stuff. But so what we want to do is to, and what we're working on together is to finally get us from being this kind of little engine that could, and this sort of small part of Aikido, we should really be 50-50. Aikido in the world, Aikido in the dojo. And so that's sort of an opportunity, and for more people to find each other, to build kind of our critical mass and our critical energy. And so it's a really exciting initiative, and it's wide open for people to jump in, help us get it organized, teach, Susan, you go ahead.
Okay, so yes, we are very excited about it. And one of the things I'm excited about looking at this group is just the collected body of knowledge that you all represent about this kind of topic. You know, you're out there taking Aikido into the world, and I imagine each one of you has a course you could teach here in Aikido University. Well, what we're doing is we're structuring it as Jamie mentioned, the school of Aikido in the world with departments underneath it. And some of the departments that we're currently envisioning, and this isn't an exhaustive list, but this is a starting point. Aiki in leadership, Aiki in business, Aiki in education, Aiki in well-being, and that includes both body work and as well as maybe mental health and that kind of thing. Aiki in athletic performance, Aiki in peacemaking, and Aiki in research. And those are all things that we're imagining as schools within the Department of Aikido in the world. And what Aiki University is a platform that will help us put together sort of an archive or a library, if you will, of knowledge about what people are doing out there. And if you want to go check out the website for yourself, it's aikidouniversity.org. And there you'll see that nothing much is on the website yet, but they're having a call for instructors and that kind of thing. And you can take a look around, but really want to issue this invitation to each one of you right now that if you have something you've been doing in any of those areas, or even if you have a different area that we haven't considered yet, that you consider getting involved so that your good work can be spread.
There are definitely some people in this room that should be doing that.
There's applying to teach courses, and if someone wants to get involved at kind of more of our sort of core organizational level of Aikido University, let us know.
And I think it's worth saying that, you know, this is not something we own. We're just trying to set a good example and trying to build a body of knowledge in this field, but anybody can do it. It's open to anybody. Okay, I'd like to talk about the seed grants. This probably took off a little bit before the last Aiki Extended seminar that took place nearly 2 years ago. And basically we agreed that we would basically offer grants for anyone who wanted to start a project that we felt was worthy and that expanded, help people out basically by using Aikido as a tool. And we have given a number of grants. So perhaps we can just talk about some of the grants that we have given. Chris, I've lost where you are on the screen, but would you like to talk about the work with veterans?
Just a sec, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just speak up a little bit.
I'll actually engage. Well, we've worked with vets for the last 5 years or so. There are 2 programs that I'm aware of at this point. I'm on the board of a veterans center here on the island where I live. So Aikido is having a subtle influence there, but the direct training of Aikido as a response to veterans' needs who are in transition has been a focus of these 2 programs. I have to defer to Rob for the name of the program in the East.
I'll text them.
The one, yeah, it's
Friends.
Fran Weldon is the widow of a vet who did, you know, all sorts of seminars and work, and basically he credits Aikido with saving him from the PTSD, you know, that he suffered since Vietnam. And he went around sharing that until he passed, and she's keeping that going, and it's
right. You don't have the name either on the tip of your head?
I can pull it up, but it will take me.
Yeah, it's a Japanese name. Forgive me, everybody.
Yeah, it's
for such a crass drop. But at any rate, Tom Osborne did great work. I believe he was Marine. And his real focus, and hers now, is training Dojo Cho to work with vets and to do a seminar for vets, which is generically an interest of Aiki Extensions in the sense that we believe that taking Aikido off the mat is one of the ways that Dojo Cho can generate both new interest and new members in their dojos, but also potentially generate revenue for their dojos. We can get back to that another time. The other veterans program was an attempt to take Aikido into the transition program at Colorado Springs at the Air Force Academy. And a friend put real effort in pulling that off for a couple of years, could not. But serendipitously, a year later, has just been hired as the executive director of a nonprofit that takes mindfulness out to vets. And he is now really developing a very powerful online digital program for veterans, teaching basic mindfulness, but the team that's putting that basic curriculum together are former, let's call them high performance operators and researchers from the military. An F-15 pilot, a SEAL, Special Forces guy. They're beginning to engage as mindfulness teachers. Some of them are out of Naropa, and several have taken Aikido along the way. The real effort is to move from just teaching mindfulness on the pillow to really developing mindfulness off the mat. And where Aikido comes in is mindfulness off the mat under pressure, under the pressure of your trauma, under the pressure of COVID, under the pressure of whatever. So they're actually just beginning to work with first responders in New York and some of the health professionals who are on the front lines. It's a very worthy effort, and it's now the best example of a vets program I know of in which Aikido has a role. I'll stop there.
That was pretty powerful. Thanks, Chris.
I put the name of the East Coast program into the group chat. It's Kaganin no Senshi Aikido, and it's run by Francis.
I know why I didn't remember it.
Yeah, no, it's
you're forgiven.
Anyway,
it was chosen for how fluidly it tripped off the tongue. I don't think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Jamie, I'll introduce you to talk about the program in Florida with the Muslim girls. Before that, I'll just quickly outline a project that we're supporting in Canada. Basically, there is a dojo there. They want to take somatic work into education located in their area, which is in Edmonton in Canada. So they've got the support of the local authorities to do that. And they just need a little bit of seed money to sort of help them get the project out there, get going with leaflets, etc., etc. And it's putting young people more in touch with their bodies when they spend so much time in front of computers these days, and we considered that a pretty worthy project and very much related to Aikido, so we were supportive of that. Jamie, do you want to talk about the Muslim girls?
Yeah, well, the Seed Grant program, and thanks for asking your question, Pierce, about what we're doing now and things that we're looking towards in the future. So the Seed Grant program is pretty exciting. They're not a lot of money, $500, $1,000, but that's some money and it can really make a difference. So there's a woman in the Aikido Tomorrow sort of under 40s group who's, I believe, Sandan at Don Ellingsworth's dojo in Tampa. And she was asked, I'm not quite sure how the connection came about, but to teach Muslim girls at the mosque in Tampa. It's a large mosque. I happened to be able to visit there in February. So anyway, she started this class for there's girls and their older sisters and their mothers. Like I say, I got to meet them fortunately. Mary Heine was teaching in Orlando, and she made a special trip to Tampa to teach them at the mosque. So really exciting. They're into it, and so Meredith is her name, is teaching there, and she applied to us, and we were able to give her a grant to help them get some equipment and things for their classes and to grow that program. So, things that who would have thought such a thing. And we are just excited to be able to have not a lot of funds, but some funds to contribute, and that our seed grant fund, we want to grow. So if anybody wants to contribute, or people who want to contribute, I mean, if we have $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in there, we can make more grants and support more programs, which is really pretty cool. And something else that I just wanted to say is that, like, for example, Tom Osborne, who now is a blessed memory, passed on, but a veteran who Aikido saved his life and developed and wrote a book about Aikido with PTSD work. He did several sessions when we were having physical Aikido, Aiki Extensions conferences, which we've probably had, I don't know, half dozen or more through the years. And it's been so amazing. Paul has taught, a lot of people have been there. We've met each other. So, I mean, we wouldn't even know each other except for Aiki Extensions and the conferences we've had. Obviously, right now, it's impossible to be doing physical ones. But what's really opening up is the virtual scene, and so, or capacity. And with Aikido University, Aiki Extensions, we're looking to, hold conferences. There's a new platform Bogdan Haratoyu is working with called Hop-In, where you can actually do conferences online in more ways than Zoom even can. Of course, Zoom works too. But so, we're looking at different ways that we can start to come together more. Also, we're putting together a research department. Jack is working with that within the Aikido University. So people doing research, and we can get evidence-based studies and papers and PhD papers about, this Aikido works, because people want some metrics, they want some papers, they want things like that. So research is going to be part of the university, and part of what we now have an opportunity to centralize, shall we say, under Aikido University for people doing Aikido work in the world, of which AE is part of, and we're spearheading, but applied Aikido and people who aren't necessarily part of an organization, but are doing Aikido work in the world.
A couple of things to pick up on there. One, it may not seem significant that we've got Muslim girls practicing Aikido in a mat, but actually it's a very male-orientated society, and getting them to practice martial arts, a lot of work had to be done to allow them to do that, and they didn't have any funds to be able to practice. So literally they couldn't pay the teacher to turn up, so we made sure that they could pay the teacher. So just a couple of important points there.
Maybe Rob could talk about Peace Camp.
Yeah, well, we'll get there, Jamie, but I'll try and work backwards rather than forwards, as based on what Piers said. So yeah, and I'm going to give a little bit of space to Christian Van Henten, who's he basically created an organization called Applied Aikido in Europe. He's based in Europe. It's an international organization. It's doing similar work to Aiki Extensions, but maybe it's more focused on getting together professionals who are literally making a living from this stuff. So Christian, would you like to just say a little bit about Applied Aikido?
Thank you. You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. As
okay.
Always.
Thank you, Quentin. I just want to just express our aim for Applied Aikido Association. I've been proposing training in companies in merchant and non-merchant sector, and I'm quite a bit tired to always explain that Aikido has great value for business, for management, for etc. It's not an original stuff. So my intention was initially to just make Applied Aikido as a field. It's not as an association, but as a field of knowledge and recognized by people outside of the Aikido world. I'm from the Aikido world, but I'm practicing Aikido, but I'm more interested in what the people know and appreciate outside, people who are not knowing Aikido, so that it can really be recognized as a field of practice, a field of development. And so it's not only gathering people as professionals, but more people who are interested and motivated to develop the field, not only to apply in a dojo, in a special way maybe, but more to develop the field in all the domains we have quoted a few minutes ago, just so that it can really develop as a field of knowledge. So with research, and we have a woman from Belgium also who is doing a PhD on the impact of Aikido applied in communication training for intercultural domain. And so it's really putting the mark so that it's really a field, not only original approaches or not only original practices and development in this dojo or in this country, but more like you can say nonviolent communication is recognized as a field, or NLP is recognized as a field, or any kind of approach. So just putting this name so that the people who don't practice Aikido say, yes, I know it's interesting because it offers new ways to handle conflict, business, management, leadership, education, etc. So that's the main goal. So it's not just a syndicate or a union of professionals. It's just more gathering people who have energy and ideas to develop further the field. And that's why also it's very linked with the project of Aikido University. But on my side, I see this rather more as a platform for offering courses that can be by the people. But I really now very motivated to just to create together, because we are never enough to do this, a kind of group, committee, whatever you call it, faculty, department, call it whatsoever, just before Aikido University, so that we can really make some research work, development work, and then if we have finished product, so a final course, we can deliver it to the applied to Aikido University, because it's a platform for selling courses, just as this. And I think it's really important to just consider this as more than all individual initiatives. It's just what we do together is creating something bigger than what we do ever in any country.
Thank you, Christian. That's great. Okay, so I am unmuting you all. Again, chance for feedback, comments, thoughts on what we've had so far. Paul?
In my teaching, don't ever talk about mindfulness. It has a taste of passivity, I think. I use the word bodyfulness, and that speaks to people differently, I think.
I've had that same conversation with the guys I mentioned. Not just on the pillow, kids. Let's get real and mindfulness in action. It's their language, not mine.
Okay, well, we won't get lost in linguistics. Happy to accept we're a whole system, body and mind, though. Okay, so any other comments or feedback? Does that address your question about currency, Piers?
Yeah, no, that's great. It's really good to hear, actually. I'm heartened, I have to say.
Okay, I'm going to just say, okay, I've been on the board for 12 years. And one of the things that I always said as soon as I got on the board is I want to make sure that we spend our money, the membership money, on supporting good projects. And I've got to be honest with you, for a lot of that time, it was actually spent on admin. And it wasn't that we didn't need admin, but for me, it was wrong. We didn't, perhaps we needed it at that time, but it didn't really speak to anybody. It didn't send the right message. Now, we're a very small board, much less structure, no outgoings, so all the money we raise effectively goes to good causes, apart from paying for the odd thing like a bit of computer, the website and accountancy, stuff like that. So it's really important to know that what we do as a group gets fed back into projects. Does that sound like a good thing, guys? Is this the sort of thing that is there a place for an organization like this in the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else got any thoughts? I don't want to be accused of this being the cook show.
Hi, Linda Eskin here. I have a thought. I'm hearing some about financial resources and some programs that are going on. What would really help me and maybe others is an opportunity to network. And I see a lot of the same people here. I'm starting to get a sense for who's who, and some people I know already. But is that part of Aiki Extensions? For the members, is there a way to reach out, say, hey, I'm trying to work on this kind of project. Who has advice for me? How can I get support with that? Not financially, but either moral support or logistical support or advice.
Absolutely. So I think all of us are quite well connected who sit on the board. And a number of times people have come to me out of the blue and said, do you know anybody who's involved in this? And I've been able to hook them up with other people. On the website, we're supposed to list our membership and show what their interests are. So also, if you remember, you've got access to that database and you can message those people. Or at the very least, you can come to people like me and we'll see if I don't know, I'll find somebody else on the board that maybe does know somebody that you might like to talk to.
Jess?
And Linda, you could be that.
Jump in.
Oh,
Sorry.
No,
I just want to underline what you're saying, Linda, because I think it's really an important part of our mission going forward that we want to make that kind of networking possible, because we're here not to, although in this call we're talking about what Aiki Extensions itself is doing, what we really want to focus on what you are doing and help connect you with people who are doing the same thing. And rather than talking at you, not only talking with you, but allowing you to talk through Aiki Extensions to the world about the work you're doing, I think is a really important part of what we want to provide going forward. Aikido University is a platform, but we're also still considering what other kinds of platforms will make that possible. So if you have any ideas about the kind of event or format that we could use to do that, that would help you, please speak up.
Great, thank you.
One of the other
even more than that, Linda, is we're a small board, right? There's 5 of us, and so we can do so much. But the networking function of AE has always been a central part of it, and even more in recent years, as Quentin was mentioning, which was great, Quentin. You're using the word hub. We want to be a hub for projects and for people and to connect people. So, if you, Linda, or somebody wants to take on a role of like being the coordinator of networking and fielding things, because again, we can sort of do so much. But there's room for people to be involved more than just us 5, and in a kind of coordinating leadership kind of level to help move everything forward. And the networking function you're talking about, Linda, is huge, really huge.
As a quick for instance, an email came in today that was generated by the website where someone just wanted to know more about Aikido and veterans. And it comes into me and I pass it along to Chris, who's our lead for veterans issues. And he'll reach back out to the person and a dialogue will start. And he's got all sorts of contacts and, knows other people who have more contacts, and, the person's question is going to get answered.
And Linda creating a master list and being a point person. We would love to have someone like that.
So this session today is part of that networking process, which I think you got, Linda. And I think the other thing that comes out of this is, okay, so we're all talking about the stuff that we're doing, because really the board is most of the energy that goes in. And actually, we want to make this about what you guys are doing. You should be Aiki Extensions. You should be feeding into what we're doing. You should be coming here and telling your stories, not just us telling stories. So we're really looking for those people who are interested in this work to get involved, to find projects they want to get to support, to just help out with their expertise. Come and join us on the board. Help find us direction as to where we go from here. Anyone else got anything they'd like to say before I maybe move on a bit? Okay, we'll move on a bit.
Jack does.
Jack.
Yeah, I just want to add to the conversation. I'm sitting here because I represent another piece when I look at the history of going off the mat is Peace Dojos International. And right now, that's about 10 people that were recognized as Peace Dojos. I have a dojo, I teach, but some of the dojos don't exist anymore as that's happening, not just because of the virus, but because things change, you know, they've moved on. But part of that was Bill Light's vision. And once a month, we meet we started in Zoom, and it's just a small group. But intellectually, the thing about it, I met last month with Paul. Paul Linden and I were the only ones there. So we had a dialogue for an hour. But I agree with you, Quentin. We need more of these kind of connections. But to put it in a historical frame, I agree, Jamie, that it started with Aiki Extensions, and Bill Light was part of that. But the part I saw was not just Aikido teachers or people trying to let people know about Aikido and then getting them to do Aikido. And as you said, Jamie, how many people are going to put a gi and train for 30 years or something, you know? So what Bill was doing.
Well, you've just frozen, Jack.
What Bill was doing was taking this out into the gangs in New York. He's
right.
into the Mid East, and
right. But to add to that, Paul, a piece of it, what has evolved in my thinking is that, and I talked to Paul about this, is that it's not just, again, building, and this is part of the history, it's not just, again, doing an Aikido class in the Middle East. What I've come to realize is this notion of peace dojos is that what you're doing in your somatic work is to embody peace. And so what Paul's done, and I've worked with the Rotary. I created a peace camp for the Rotary. The Rotary is an international organization, and one of their 5 themes is peace and conflict. So coming out of peace dojos, and we're very small, and Paul's work is aligning with AVP. So there's international organizations that talk about peace and do a lot of things, but they're missing a somatic piece, right, which I think Aikido brings. But what we're saying, Quentin, we've got to use a different language. We've got to align with their language. And so the other piece, and Christian talked about it, and I work with him closely. Part of this idea is to talk about how do we represent our training of Aikido to other organizations that don't speak our language, but need a somatic piece to their training to make it real. So a lot of times you have to learn. I know when Paul was doing things over in Palestine, he had to learn a different way to talk to AVP people who think they're teaching peace, but they leave the body out of it. And so you have to have this dialogue to help people. When Bill was working with gangs, I mean, the gangs work with the bodies, they'll beat you up and all, but a different way to get them to talk about peace when they're talking about violence. So to me, I see the evolution of these 3 organizations as they've grown to really try to say, how do we understand our practice off this mat, off this practice, but somatically, how that makes a difference in the world, to engage your body. And I just want to throw that in because I think that's where the language, the evolution, and what Christian's saying as a body of knowledge. What do we have to offer to people? I mean, AVP is doing peace work, but Paul will tell you, but they left the whole body out of it. So how can you do
you keep saying you keep saying AVP, but over here we don't know what AVP is.
Okay. AVP is an international organization, Alternatives to Violence. They're all over the world and they have curriculum. Okay. Everybody, you know, in England, in America, we have Rotary, right? Rotary. Yeah. One of the 5 founding principles of Rotary is peace and conflict. And you can go off to Rotary universities and all and sit in a classroom and talk about it. Yeah. But there's no somatic piece to it. And I think that, for me, that's what I've learned. That's what Aikido brings. Because when you look back in the history, it was about embodying this. Yeah. And you have to do your body to embody it. but it might not take 30 years. So that's one of the challenges we all talk about. When you take something off the mat, you take it out of our sandbox, which is all in body work, into another arena where they've left the body out. And I think that's, to me, one of the important pieces that we need to explore. So
absolutely. And you could run a whole session on that, Jack, but we're not going to. But you make
no, I agree.
Really important point.
The other problem is that not only have the peace organizations left out the body, but Aikido has left out the cognitive component. Very few people that I know of who are working with language and the structure of language and how that influences people's behavior and how they can behave. I can give you a quick example. If I say, you stepped on my pet turtle, that made me so mad, that's a style of ascribing causes. If you say, you stepped on my pet turtle and I made myself so mad about that, that points to the direction of where is the learning going to take place, not outside. It's not the guy who stepped on your pet turtle that made you mad. You made yourself angry about that. And so there's a cognitive linguistic component that's missing in Aikido that keeps us from, as easily as possible, taking this out into the world.
And I just have to say that Paul is probably the person to me who most embodies taking Aikido off the mat. His working is in counseling and supporting abuse victims and all sorts of people like that. And he takes the message of Aikido and he really makes it live and breathe off the mat. So he talks as a world expert in my eyes. I want to bring out another aspect of Aiki Extension. I want to talk about my personal wins from this, because I've been on the board for about 12 years. I'd love that we were a much bigger organization, that we had many, many more projects to talk about. But I tell you what, the people that are on this call that I would never have met if it wasn't for Aiki Extensions, the amazing adventures that have personally happened to me as a result of that. Writing or collecting the stories from around the world and producing a book, A Way to Reconcile the World, that would never have happened without this. All sorts of seminars would never have happened. And I've been able to introduce my brother and people from his club and other clubs, and I've organized seminars and I've brought people together from around the world. And my Aikido life has been so enriched by being a part of Aiki Extensions and really seeking to get involved. You know, so sometimes on an organizational level, we don't always get where I want to be because we're only small, okay? But on a personal win level, boy, it's been amazing, truly amazing. And I'm sure everybody else that's been part of Aiki Extension on the board would support that.
Certainly.
I take those nodding heads as a yes for that.
Well, I mean, and I came to Aiki Extensions because I had a project and I needed a nonprofit umbrella to operate under. And so as an example of that, I think I'll just speak briefly about Peace Camp.
Please do.
So I had a long association with a summer camp in the United States that's been around for a long time, and it's a sports camp. And it's not about sports to make you a scholarship athlete. It's about sports as a way of sort of turning, you know, kids into people. And it teaches sportsmanship and camaraderie and all sorts of, you know, positive values. And summer camp, if you ever had a chance to go to one, you hopefully remember it the way I do, which is it is the best place to forge friendships the world has ever known. And I'd actually written about that for public radio shortly before running into Jamie Zimran at Aikido West, where I trained. And she told me the story of this Training Across Borders event in 2005, and percolating through that conversation was an idea I'd had for a while that Israeli kids and Palestinian kids, if we could get them together, again, with this sort of people's diplomacy, if we could get them together, we could, you know, genuinely work towards solving the problem of you know, the conflict in the Middle East. And so since 2008, Jamie and I, with some, you know, funding we've gotten from various places, have been running a scholarship program called the Peace Camp Initiative, which brings Israeli and Palestinian kids to this summer camp in Pennsylvania. and we've brought 44 kids at this point, and raised, something like $200,000 of scholarship aid. And it's, been very rewarding. And I came to Aiki Extensions at the time, which I had no prior relationship to, although I knew a few of the people who were involved. And they liked what the Peace Camp was, and after a little bit of time, they asked me to be on the board. And then I missed a board meeting. And this is what I'm recommending you don't do, because I missed a board meeting and they made me president. And I haven't been able to give that away to somebody else for a while now. But in any case, the Peace Camp Initiative is a wonderful experience, and it brings Israeli kids and Palestinian kids who, by virtue of their embodied practice, by virtue of the fact that they arrive through an organization which is all about martial arts. It's a group in Israel called Budo for Peace, where we get most of our candidates from. And they're an organization based in Israel, led by an Israeli Australian guy named Danny Hakim, who is a
Olympic karate guy,
who was a karate guy, and who'd represented Australia in the Olympics. So a good karate guy. And what he's been doing is the Budo for Peace organization will create sister dojo relationships between a karate dojo or a judo dojo or an Aikido dojo in a Jewish neighborhood and one in a Palestinian neighborhood. So the kids every so often get together and train. And just like at the camp, they get to forge, friendships and levels of trust that you wouldn't normally have. And exactly those levels of trust and forged friendships you really want the leaders to have, so that they can do the risky things that are required, politically risky things that peace requires. At any point we want to make this a little more multimedia, I can show some pictures of Peace Camp. I can show some pictures that Jamie sent me about our program work we've done in Ethiopia. Or I could, show some pictures or video of the Training Across Borders event, if that's of interest to people.
One of the participants in the Training Across Borders, I believe it was Allah Hijazi, commented that before he came, he was really disturbed by the idea of practicing with the Israelis, the Palestinian. And after the thing, he was even more disturbed because he found that he liked the Israelis and he didn't want to like the enemies. That's good.
Exactly. I remember, Rob, why don't you just show a few pictures? Because it's just, when you see, if you have them, just to see the people.
I'll make you a co-host, Rob.
Okay, and then I will.
But Paul, just two things I want to say on what Paul said. I remember Alas saying, "Oh God, you're making our lives so difficult. We like to hate, and now we can't," which is pretty much an Aiki outcome, I think. And the other thing with Peace Camp, and in terms of current Pierce and everybody, is that we've done 10 or 11 years now, and last summer was our first summer we had our first two kids from the West Bank. We have Christian and Muslim Arab kids from within Israel, but this time and when I was just there recently, we did another Budo for Peace Aiki Extensions training in the West Bank with kids there. So it's really been a great new extension to bring the West Bank Palestinian kids in to the whole Peace Camp program.
All right, so at this point, I think you will be seeing a screen that has an email here with pictures from Ethiopia and pictures from Peace Camp. I'm just going to scroll through these, and other people can talk and just, I'm not sure how much narration this requires, but these are pictures that Jamie took in Ethiopia. This is one of the first women black belts in Africa,
who we hope is going to teach at our upcoming women's seminar, women teachers-led seminar for everybody.
Oh, that would be great.
One of the teachers, yeah.
There's Chemek, who was on the call earlier but had to go.
So while you're showing those photos, I just want to just sort of maybe summarize some of what's going on tonight. So you can see that Aiki Extensions gets involved in small things, the networking, the connecting of people, the arranging of seminars, but it also gets involved in some really, really big and important stuff. And, you know, we are trying to do our bit of reconciling the world. So many of the projects we've talked about happen in America, not exclusively, but mainly in America. Oh, I wasn't going to talk over that.
No, I'm sorry.
That's all right. We'd love to see more stuff happening in Europe, and there's a good smattering of Europeans here. So, you know, if you know of projects that need to get started, now you know where to come. Let's make it happen.
I also wanted to, after this, no, go ahead, Rob. No, after this.
Well, no, I'm trying to turn off the music.
And rightly so. Okay, so while anybody else got any comments? Would you like anything else you want to offer?
I just wanted to see if Tiger Frank wanted to say anything. We know him from Aiki Extensions, from Training Across Borders, Aikido Ethiopia, and you know, he's in Nairobi, and he started teaching Aikido in Nairobi. If you just want to say hi, Tiger, and I mean, these are the things that Aikido in the world makes possible, these relationships, Dimitra and, you know, so many people in Greece. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm just grateful to be in the Middle East. My full name is Francis Washira, or Francis. Yeah, Francis Washira. I met with Jenny in 2017 in Ethiopia, and there we started to connect more in Aikido. I'm just grateful for what I'm hearing. I've heard some good things. I've had the projects you guys are doing, and it's quite great. Also, I know in the future we might be maybe able to have also a project maybe in Kenya, and that would be my vision in coming years. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Just saying, actually, in another case of networking, I was approached by somebody who's doing research at a university about how people are taking the principles of Aikido and applying them in the world. She wanted somebody to talk to in Africa because she's trying to get representation from all around the world, and I was able to put her in touch with Tiger. So that's just a very small case of how things can happen. Anybody else have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, complaints, anything?
Yes, I have been engaged in trying to simplify the somatic component of Aikido. And I've got some handouts now that allow people in 30 minutes to do things that took me 25 to 30 years to figure out. The handouts are free and downloadable from my website. And if anybody's interested in the somatic component, I'd be glad to talk with them at some other time.
Paul, could you type your website into the chat?
Sure.
And your email address if you're willing for people to email.
Yeah, of course. Let's see.
Okay, anybody else? Any thoughts, comments? I mean, we could go, there's a long list of other projects we could talk about, but I really think you've probably got a sense of the work that Aiki Extensions does. So, you know, and if you want to find out more, you can always look on the website and see some of the historic things that we've done. So I'm going to close this session before too long.
Quentin, could I say one quick thing? Just so people know what they're looking at with the pictures that Rob is showing. You know, it looks like a lot of kids having a lot of fun at camp, which it is. But what you're seeing for the most part is Christian, Jewish, Muslim kids. You know, we could tell you who they are, but most of them, you know, who've flown together, traveled together from the Middle East and back. You know, now they have new relationships back in Israel and Palestine as they grow into adults and start to become parents, teachers, leaders, etc. And they are also, you're seeing them with all the American kids. So the American kids are having a whole new education by meeting those kids, and as you can see, just being kids and campers with them. But so I just wanted to kind of add that in, that most of these pictures are from our kids from the Middle East, and again, interacting with the American kids.
Yeah. Okay, final opportunity to have your say. So Does anybody else want to add anything?
I'll say something again. So, yeah, deeply moved by what you guys have shared, and I'm honored and very happy that Sensei Jamie will join next week in a session, and it's open to everybody. That also combines, 30 years of stuff and several years of Aikido into a nice practice that we do internationally. So I'd be very honored for anybody that wants to partake in that to join Sensei Jamie, and I'm sure she'll bring it back with her, and we'll be doing more of those. But I'm very, very happy and privileged to have been enriched as much as I have from Aikido, and therefore, the more we can give back, the better it is. So I guess I'm not going to stop doing scholarships until I fall over. So very happy and very blessed. I am.
If there's a link for that, you might like to post it in conversation, or give it to me, and I will make sure it gets out to the people who attend these sessions. And the other thing I want to tell people is Patrick wasn't a plug, I promise. Those were genuine words from somebody I've never met before, so it's really nice to meet you. Last chance, guys, stick your hand up or offer opinion then. 5 seconds.
Thank you, guys. I was furiously taking notes and writing down websites, and it was good to be reminded about the work you're doing and learn about a whole lot more that's out there.
Thank you, Laura.
Before Laura, and anyone else, before you quit Zoom, save the chat, and the websites and things should be there. I just posted the link for the Google Drive for the video from Tab 2015, which I find very moving. I'm very happy with how that came out.
Can you remind people how to save the chat?
There's three, where it says to everyone or to whoever you might have been chatting with, there's 3 dots.
Oh yeah, that's it.
And if you click on the 3 dots, and the top choice is save chats.
So on the right hand side of where you might type a message, you've got those 3 dots, and within that you can save chat if you want to. It's the top command.
Just a quickie, Quen. I was going through the pictures from the last Aiki Extensions at Burwell, and Robert very kindly shared 643 photos. And I went through every single one, I have to say, and I got a fantastic photo of Thomas Cristalla throwing me during my course, my lesson, and there's this massive smile on his face, and I sent it to him yesterday, and I just called the photo "The Joy of Aikido" because he was just beaming. It was wonderful. So thanks for those photos, Robert. They were brilliant.
Cheers.
And just another example of a connection that would never have happened without it.
Absolutely. And now, and because of that, I get invited back to Bonn every year, and it's been a great friendship now. And also, I just want to say, guys, I'm really impressed. Well done. You've turned it around.
Thank you. Dimitri.
I want to give a shout out. Jerry Green has posted something in the chat. You may want to look at stuff that he applies Aikido principles to men's shadow work. There's links to, I didn't put the East Coast Veterans Work website in, but since the email is info@, just take everything after the @ and that's the website.
Okay, Dimitri, you had something to say.
Robert, people can link to Peace Dojos through Aiki Extensions, right?
I'm confident we have a link to Peace Dojos.
Yeah, you have a page there. I think you have a page.
Yeah, we have a page, but there's also peacedojos.org is kind of its own website as well.
Okay, back to Dimitri. Third time lucky, Dimitri.
Yes, well, such wonderful things have been said. I just wanted to add at the end, I was lucky to have met Aiki Extension people 5 years ago at this international meeting in Lutraki in Greece, and then ever since I've been coming to Burwell. And I feel it's really inspiring. And when you hear about projects about Israeli and Palestinian children and adults and teenagers training together in the peace camp and this project about the Muslim women and in Africa. I think this is also inspiring. I think it's so unique. I haven't heard of other Budo or martial arts organizations organizing projects like this. At least I don't know of. And in spite of whatever problems have come up so far, I think it's so inspiring. It's really wonderful to see all this. I think it's amazing. The work that has been done and all the work that is going to be done from now on. I think it's amazing.
I think it's just worth adding that nobody on the board gets paid. And I can't tell you how many hours we've all put in over the years. I'm not trying to big myself up, but just so you know, no money goes into the board members' pockets. It only goes towards the projects and supporting the organisation. Yeah,
that's one more reason to appreciate this. One more reason to appreciate.
Hello. Hello.
Whoever's picked up that call, if you could mute,
that
would be great. Okay, it seems like a really good moment to say thank you so much for coming. I hope
you want to come over today for that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And next week we'll be interviewing Shemek Goronsky, who I think you'll find an interesting character. So
great.
I see some of you there. Okay, so bye all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Tomo,
Yeah.
thank you. Bye-bye.